The man who invented rock and roll earned an estimated $1 billion during his career. He sold more records than almost any human being who ever lived. His face was recognized in more countries than most heads of state, and when he died at 42, inside the bathroom of his own mansion, his estate was worth roughly $5 million. He owed twice that to the IRS. The house he loved was bleeding $500,000 a year just to keep the lights on and the security gates closed. For a man the world called a king, Elvis Presley died closer to bankruptcy than royalty. But here is the part that gets lost in every tribute. The fortune that bears his name today, the estate now valued at nearly $500 million, was not built by Elvis. It was built after he was gone. Built by 3 women across 3 generations who fought, rebuilt, lost, sued each other, and nearly watched the whole thing collapse when a con artist from Missouri tried to steal Graceland with a forged document less than 2 years ago. And the question his family still cannot agree on is who actually deserves to control the legacy of a man who could not even control his own life. To answer that, you have to go back to where it started. And where it started was a place that looked nothing like the stages, the spotlights, and the white jumpsuits. Elvis Aaron Presley was born on January 8, 1940, inside a 2-room shotgun shack in East Tupelo, Mississippi. His father Vernon built the house with borrowed lumber on borrowed land for roughly $180. Elvis had a twin brother named Jesse Guerin who arrived stillborn 35 minutes before him. His mother Gladys carried that grief for the rest of her life and poured every ounce of it into the surviving boy. She walked him to school every morning until he was 15 years old. She slept in the same bed with him well into his childhood. The bond between them was the defining relationship of his entire existence, and losing her in 1958 would send him into a spiral he never fully recovered from. But before that came real poverty. When Elvis was 3, Vernon was convicted of forging a check worth roughly $4. He served time at Mississippi's Parchman Farm, one of the most brutal prisons in the South. The family lost the house. Gladys and Elvis drifted between relatives until Vernon returned, and they eventually packed what they owned into a car and drove to Memphis, Tennessee, hoping for work that paid more than sharecropping. In Memphis, the family lived in public housing at Lauderdale Courts. Elvis attended Humes High School, where he carried a guitar and the other students laughed at him. He was quiet. He was awkward. Nobody who met him during those years would have predicted that within 5 years he would be the single most famous person on the planet. But what happened next at a small recording studio on Union Avenue would change everything. And the man who made it possible was not the con artist who later took credit for the whole thing. It was a producer from Florence, Alabama, named Sam Phillips. In the summer of 1953, Elvis walked into the Memphis recording service at 706 Union Avenue. He paid $4 to record 2 songs on a personal acetate, reportedly a gift for his mother. Phillips noted his name and filed it away. He did not call back for over a year. The dream almost died right there. Then in June of 1954, Phillips invited him to try a ballad. It did not work. Phillips was ready to send him home. But during a break, Elvis started fooling around with an old blues number called That's All Right by Arthur Crudup. He played it loose, fast, and strange. It sounded like nothing anyone in that room had ever heard. Phillips stuck his head through the studio door and asked what he was doing. Elvis said he did not know. Phillips told him to find a place to start and do it again. 3 days later, Memphis DJ Dewey Phillips played the acetate on WHBQ. The station switchboard lit up so fiercely they had to play the song 14 times in a row. Within months, the regional hysteria was undeniable. And within a year, a man calling himself Colonel Tom Parker had inserted himself into the center of everything. That title was not a military rank. It was an honorary designation from the governor of Louisiana for campaign work. His name was not Tom Parker, and he was not American. But that secret, and the far darker one hiding underneath it would not surface for decades. By then, the damage was catastrophic. What followed after Parker's arrival was the fastest cultural explosion in American entertainment history. Elvis appeared on Ed Sullivan's show in 1956 and drew 60 million viewers, the largest television audience ever recorded at that point. He made 31 Hollywood films. He married Priscilla Presley in 1967. Their daughter Lisa Marie was born in 1968. He served in the army in West Germany and returned to a country more obsessed with him than ever. Then, in December of 1968, NBC aired the comeback special. Elvis in black leather on a small stage, surrounded by a live audience reminding the world why he mattered. The Las Vegas residency followed. The International Hotel, the white jumpsuits, the sold-out shows. On the surface, a man at the absolute peak of his powers. But behind every curtain was the Colonel. And the Colonel was hiding something that made everything else impossible. His real name was Andreas Cornelis van Kook, born in the city of Breda in the southern Netherlands in 1909. He entered the United States illegally in 1929 and never became a citizen. He never obtained a passport. And the timing of his departure from Breda has haunted researchers for decades. On May 17, 1929, one day before Van Kook left his hometown for good, a 23-year-old woman named Anna van den Enden was found bludgeoned to death inside her home, 3 blocks from the Van Kook residence. The murder was never solved. No physical evidence linked him to the crime. But biographer Alana Nash, who obtained the original 130-page Dutch police report, wrote that the circumstances made it impossible not to speculate. The killer had spread pepper around the body to throw off scent dogs. Van Kook had worked as a carnival animal tender, including dogs. He fled the country within hours. Whether or not he committed that crime, what is beyond dispute is that the man who controlled every dollar Elvis Presley earned was an illegal immigrant living under a false identity, and this single fact cost Elvis hundreds of millions of dollars. Parker took up to 50% of Elvis's earnings. The industry standard was 10 to 15%. After Elvis died, a probate court judge was reportedly stunned at the terms. A legal investigation found Parker had taken $7 to $8 million more than he was owed. The estate sued. Parker settled. But the deeper damage went far beyond the commission rate. Because Parker had no passport, Elvis Presley, the most popular entertainer on earth, never performed a single concert outside of North America. Promoters from London, Tokyo, and Sydney offered millions for world tours. Parker refused every one. Elvis never fully understood why. The real reason was that his manager could not leave the country without exposing himself as a fugitive. Then, in 1973, Parker negotiated the deal that sealed everything. He sold Elvis's entire back catalog of master recordings to RCA for a lump sum of $5.4 million. Parker took half. Elvis received roughly $2.6 million, before taxes, for every song he had ever recorded. Those masters are now worth hundreds of millions. That single transaction, negotiated by a desperate gambler trying to cover his losses at the Las Vegas Hilton, may be the most destructive financial decision ever made on behalf of any recording artist in history. Gambling was its own catastrophe. Parker ran up debts at the Hilton that reached into the millions. To settle those debts, he locked Elvis into Vegas residency contracts at rates far below what the open market would have paid. Elvis performed over 600 shows in Las Vegas across 7 years, often 2 a night. Not because Vegas was the best stage for his talent, because his manager owed the hotel money. By the mid-70s, Elvis was trapped. His marriage ended in 1973. He was living inside Graceland, surrounded by a group of loyalists called the Memphis Mafia. His personal physician, Dr. George Nicopolis, prescribed more than 12,000 doses of stimulants, depressants, and narcotics in the final 2.5 years of his life. Elvis's weight ballooned, and his performances became erratic. The man who had once commanded every stage he touched was now struggling to finish concerts. Dr. Nick was later charged with overprescribing, tried and acquitted, though his medical license was eventually revoked. On August 16, 1977, Elvis's girlfriend Ginger Alden found him face down on the bathroom floor of his Graceland bedroom suite. He was 42 years old. The official cause of death was listed as cardiac arrhythmia, but the full autopsy results were sealed by the Shelby County Medical Examiner for 50 years. Those results are scheduled to become public in 2027. What exactly killed Elvis Presley remains, legally and medically, an open question. The details inside that sealed report are among the most anticipated medical disclosures in American history. The estate he left behind was a disaster. $5 million in assets and $10 million in debts, with a house draining $500,000 a year. Vernon died in 1979. Grandmother Minnie Mae died the following year. That left one heir. Lisa Marie Presley, 9 years old when her father died, became the sole beneficiary of an estate that was collapsing with no plan to stop it. The person who stopped the bleeding was her mother. Priscilla Presley took control as co-trustee and made a decision that everyone around her called disrespectful and doomed to fail. In June of 1982, she opened Graceland to the public as a museum and tourist destination. On opening day, over 3,000 visitors walked through the doors. Within a year, Graceland was drawing 500,000 visitors annually. Today, it attracts more than 650,000 and generates over $10 million a year in revenue alone. Priscilla did not stop with Graceland. She established Elvis Presley Enterprises and built a licensing empire around her ex-husband's name, image, and music. Merchandising deals, film rights, publishing agreements, international brand partnerships. By 1993, when Lisa Marie turned 25 and formally inherited the trust, the estate was debt-free and worth an estimated $100 million. Priscilla Presley had taken a dead man's bankrupt legacy and built it into something worth more than Elvis ever held while alive. That detail alone tells you everything about who actually saved the king's fortune. But Lisa Marie's chapter follows a darker pattern. In 2005, she sold an 85% stake in EPE for roughly $100 million, retaining Graceland and 15% of the intellectual property. The money did not last. She later claimed her business manager Barry Siegel had squandered over $100 million of her fortune, leaving her $16 million in debt. Siegel blamed her spending. The lawsuit settled quietly. Elvis had Parker. Lisa Marie had Siegel. The pattern of trust betrayed repeated across generations like a curse the family could not break. On January 12, 2023, Lisa Marie collapsed at her home in Calabasas, California. Cardiac arrest. She did not survive. She was 54 years old. 4 days earlier, she had attended the Golden Globe Awards beside her mother Priscilla, looking healthy. Her death stunned the public almost as suddenly as her father's had 45 years before. What followed was not grief alone. It was a legal battle. Lisa Marie had amended her trust in 2016, replacing Priscilla and Siegel as co-trustees with her daughter Riley Keough and son Benjamin. Benjamin Keough died by suicide in 2020 at the age of 27. Priscilla challenged the amendment, questioning the authenticity of Lisa Marie's signature. The dispute played out in Los Angeles probate court for months before they reached a private settlement. Riley Keough became sole trustee of the Presley estate. She was 34 years old, an actress best known for Daisy Jones and The Six. She was now responsible for Graceland, for Elvis's personal effects, and for the decisions that would shape how the world remembers the king for the next 50 years. And almost immediately, someone tried to take it from her. In May of 2024, a company called Nosany Investments filed paperwork claiming Lisa Marie had used Graceland as collateral for a $3.8 million loan that had defaulted. A foreclosure auction was scheduled. Riley's legal team intervened, arguing the loan documents were forged and the entire scheme was fraudulent. A Tennessee judge blocked the sale. Federal investigators traced the scheme to a Missouri woman named Lisa Jeanine Findley, who pleaded guilty to mail fraud and was sentenced to over 4 years in federal prison. Graceland was never in real danger, but someone came close enough to schedule a public auction on the most famous private home in American music. That tells you exactly how exposed the Presley estate remains, even now. The estate is valued between $400 million and $500 million today, with some estimates climbing higher after the 2022 Baz Luhrmann biopic. Forbes placed its annual earnings at $17 million in 2025. Graceland still draws tourists from every corner of the world. The music still sells. The brand still licenses. But the argument over who Elvis Presley actually was has never been louder. He was a white man from Mississippi who became famous singing music rooted in black gospel and blues traditions. And that conversation has grown sharper with every passing generation. He reshaped American culture in ways that are still being measured, and he was a man who could not save himself from the people closest to him. He gave away Cadillacs, houses, and cash to complete strangers. And he was exploited for decades by the one person he trusted most, a man who was not even who he claimed to be. The fortune is real. Riley Keough controls it. Priscilla watches over it from a distance. Lisa Marie is buried at Graceland beside her son Benjamin, next to her father and grandparents, all of them resting in the meditation garden behind the mansion Elvis bought with his first big check when he was 22 years old. The money Elvis made disappeared. The money his name generates keeps growing. And the question his family is still answering, the one that has followed the Presleys from that shotgun shack in Tupelo to the courthouses of Los Angeles to the fraud investigators in Missouri, is whether anyone can truly own a legend, or whether a legend, once it grows large enough, simply owns everyone it touches. Drop your thoughts in the comments because the fight over who gets to define the king is far from over, and your take on it matters more than you think.